Adventures in AI. Last week, Hugo walked me through a brand new AI design tool. And the most useful thing that came out of it wasn't a review. It was a map of exactly where AI can and can't and could and should sit in today's modern design process. The before state, before AI came along, was that a junior designer would spend several days producing several versions of a screen. And the after state, where we are today, is everybody is busily exploring these tools to see how their workflow can evolve and how it can speed up. So tune in, strap in, get ready. This is going to be really fun. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into Claude Design. So first of all, welcome, Hugo, our lead designer.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to the show. All right.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here, my friend. So, and I think I mentioned this on episode 1, part of this journey is to begin to include friends and family of Rightbrain into the show. So Hugo is our first guinea pig / brave person. Bless you, my friend. So Adventures in AI, just a recap, it is a light-hearted look at working better with AI. I'm Ollie Happy, it is my real name, and I am your host. I don't have my new microphone yet, but it should arrive in a few days. So next time I will be in full BBC audio quality. The purpose of this show is to share a little bit of AI news at a very high, understandable, meaningful level, and to look at ways that we can all work better with AI as much as possible without changing the ways we work today. That's the key. And the purpose and the hope is that through watching the show, you might get some ideas on how you could improve the way that your business works and you know, what it all means. I am the product guy at Rightbrain. I love optimizing. I love embedding AI in everything that I do. And I see AI as just the latest step in machine learning. And machine learning has been around about as long as computers have. So to me, this is just a new set of tools, which is really interesting and deserves a bit of analysis. First of all, let's talk about the industry news. So as you will see as a result of this deep dive, Anthropic, who have produced Claude, the second largest AI business in the world after OpenAI. They are now a full stack product company. They have Claude, the chat that everybody uses with projects within it. They have Claude Code, they have Claude Cowork. I've talked about this in the last episode. And now we also have Claude Design, amongst other emerging areas. Figma's stock fell 7% on launch day. Figma is the designer's tool of choice for most of the world who produces software, I would say. And Anthropic CPO had quietly left Figma's board 3 days earlier. The before stack is getting very capable very fast. Non-designers are therefore starting to enter the design workflow in the same way that non-engineers are starting to vibe and with sometimes brilliant and sometimes looks good, doesn't work type results. So today's focus, we're going to look into Claude Design and where it sits in the software development lifecycle, what it replaces and what it doesn't replace. It went into research preview about 2 weeks ago. Is that right, Hugo?
Yeah, so I think it launched like maybe 7 days ago now. And
7 days ago. And Hugo's been quietly testing it for us.
Long, yeah.
And so every tool has a launch week and a what does this really mean week, right? So thank you for joining us on the what does it really mean week. And so a quick orientation of the 5 software development lifecycle stages, which is really just the process of we have an idea, we've built it and people are using it and everything that happens in between. I think it's really helpful to orient us all around each of these stages. So bear with me, we're just going to use Ollie's stages today, which are ideation, wireframing, and ideation, discovery, build, launch, and then delivery, which includes support and retention and renewals. So over to you, my friend. What is Claude Design and what is it not?
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen and just show it, which I think is the best way of explaining what it does. I'm not going to build stuff live because it might take too long and bore people out, but I'm going to show what we did with it so far and how we play with it. So I think from a design team perspective, one of the most important thing is like the design systems. So that's one of the big features here in Claude Design, is that you can set up your design system and plug it in directly to the tool. So there's a couple
And what is
different
the
ways you
design
can.
system?
So yeah, so for context for non-designers, or it's just that it's the set of items that it's everything that that relates to product design. So your buttons, your titles, your typography, your colors, and you can go deep into that. Like you can actually build components in that design system for basically everything you have on your product. So it usually has a version on a Figma file or on other design softwares, and also a version on the tech side. So there's usually a storybook or a design system that sits on the front end, and so that thing has to be aligned on design and on front end. That's
And there
the
was a
at least
big
best way
revolution.
to, yeah.
Thank you. There was a big revolution in design, wasn't there? People went from Photoshop to Figma, and maybe via Sketch. And when they got to Figma, I remember it being really exciting that designers were able to design things in a place that the engineers could reach and could use, and it started to be producing a form of code that people could begin to lift out. But things were really messy, and then we went into atomic design, and perhaps we should atomize each element of the design, the way that things look and feel. But what was really interesting is that basically design became its own process of engineering, didn't it? And that's where the design system has become so important, hasn't it? Build it once, use it many times, change it easily, change it in many places from one small change.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, you made a great summary of the different stages that design went through the last 15 to 10 years. So the important thing is that when you have a like small team or mid team and bigger up to bigger teams, it's the one of the challenges is to keep things aligned between design, and then when you hand it over to the tech team, and then building it and iterating it. So having all those things aligned and not have different versions on every step is actually one of the big challenges. And Figma really helped a lot on that side. So having a design system that you can maintain and share with the devs, and have something that's kind of the Bible for the product team is super important to just go to and say, okay, that's how a button looks like, and it's always going to look like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the context for the design system. So back to Claude Design. Here you can actually sync your design system or based on your repo, so on your code, or you can upload a FigJam .fig file, which is basically a Figma file. So we tried different approaches. We tried with code, so there's the one version here. We tried with the full Figma file, so the full design system, which is quite big in our team. And then I tried to have a light version with just uploading 5 different screens, which I think represent the product best as of today. And so to give you a bit of insight here, like the code one and Figma Jam are very granular. So you have all the different elements you can think of that are sitting in our product. So Claude Design actually takes that as context, right? So it goes through everything and actually builds an understanding of the design system and uses that to produce and generate screens or whatever you want. But the thing is, as those things are super large, it also consumes a lot of tokens, right? So it's kind of a balance to find between how deep you want the understanding of the design system to be for every task you want for every time you want it to achieve, right? So the best, let's say the quickest and most effective way I found it was using the lighter one just for ideation, because having the full design system as context was not as important, at least for some of the tasks we've done so far. So I
And
can go
how long did
through.
it take you to blow your tokens when you first started using
So that, yes, I think that's what most people went through at what I've seen on X and other social media. I've seen that most people went through it in a couple hours. So that was my my problem as well. Because you just try a new product and you just get excited and upload your design system and then you go for it. And in a couple prompting, I just run through the the tokens, right? So I maxed out what was allowed to be done, and then other people in the team let me overuse the Claude Design. So yeah, that's for the first day of work on that. And then that's how I tried to optimize that side on the tokens, and that's why I used a lighter version with couple screens only. We can go through a couple examples just to show you what the output looks like. So this, for example, is using, I think this was using the full design system. So you can see that it actually looks pretty similar to a real product. There's some alignment problems and stuff. It's not perfect, of course, but it's actually very close to what the design system looks like, which is quite interesting. So it uses the components pretty well. Also, like things like breadcrumbs, like the logo is one of the only thing that's finally not correct. But otherwise, yeah, there's some coloring problems and stuff. But otherwise, you can see that's pretty close to the design system. Here, you can. One of the interesting thing with Claude Design is that you can have tweaks. So when you prompting,
so just
you can
taking
ask.
us back a step. So what did you do to create this? Like, what were you trying to do, and what did you prompt?
Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, so what you do is I can actually show you here. So when you actually prompting here, it's the same thing that you're using on different AI tools. You just prompt to what you actually want to achieve. Here you can mention or add context. For example, here you have skills and design system. So here you have the file that I showed earlier. You have the product shot version and then the code and Figma version. So you can use one, and it's going to be set as context here in the chat. You can add other stuff. You can add your website if your website is online, for example. So then a website URL. You can mention also competitors if you want. Upload a different file, or just add screenshots. So just images and whatever you want to have as context, you can add in here. And then prompting. So for this specific task, I actually used part of the specs we had just to try to see how close he got the specs. So in this particular example, it's not too bad. You can actually go into preview mode. So here you can actually have the full. Some of the stuff are clickable, or they're not. That's actually linked to your prompting, right? So if you actually want the full clickable prototype, it's going to build it. If not, then you just have one element that's going to be clickable here. For example, it's just going to be the trigger. So it built a trigger page that we actually wanted to have on the product. Yeah, so that's one example. Otherwise, what else can I show? For example,
And just the
page.
context. How long did it take you to prompt, build, and get to that stage?
So to get to that specific one, it was quite fast because it was just based on the specs.
Yep. Paste spec, add
exactly.
context,
So
run.
the prompting was pretty fast. The generation is still, well, it's slow in terms of AI standards, I guess, right? It depends what you're using.
Yeah, like co-work.
So if it's going to take 5 to sometimes 10 minutes to generate something, which is compared to a junior designer who would have to do high fidelity wireframe is super fast, but if you compare it to prompting and ideation, it's not that fast, right?
Yeah.
So having a first version, I think, is still fast if you have it as a background task. And the cool thing is you can edit here, so you can actually go into specific things if you want to make it look better. You can comment directly on specific things. So if you want to add a CTA here, you can just tell him add CTA, and he's going to do it here. And going to do it in the background, so you can actually go deeper into your into the result here, right? Which is one of the great things about the tool. If you want to, for example, work as a team on it, you could have a call like we do right now, and just change stuff on the fly. You could add elements by drawing. If you want to add another element here, you can just draw on the screen and then write what you want here, and it's gonna add it, right?
Yeah, that's
So
great. So we've been talking about the discovery and wireframing process, right? Like,
yeah.
and I guess a great example in what we're looking at is we'd like to take our observability to the next stage. We'd like to enhance the way that our users can monitor their tasks and their agents and their runs and look at that that data in a useful way. And you wanted to generate some ideas of how that could be laid out on the page. How would you have done this otherwise before Claude Design?
So, well, before I would have went through the specs, probably had questions about it. So and now there's like, so the flow has changed from specs to ideation already. Like if you would have pre-AI, you would have meetings with the tech team, ask questions about like the data points, what should be shown on the screen, what the user would have to go through, and you would actually build a feature as a team and through multiple cycles of meetings and iterations, low fidelity mockups and stuff. So it's kind of for a completely new feature to having a live feature. It would have taken at least a couple of weeks for fast teams, maybe a lot more for less fast teams. So for large companies, it would take months, maybe.
It's very generous.
Yeah, it would take months or sometimes years to change some stuff on the product, right? But now, at least for small teams like us, where like we are a startup that's moving very fast. So actually, from going to ideation to live, now we generate we build the specs first, then I go through the specs, for example, with you on the product team, and then I can ask questions to our code base, right? Because through Claude Code or through Cursor, you can actually ask the code base. You can ask AI about the code base. You can ask him how the API is working, what data has to be shown and stuff. So that whole step of having to ask questions to the tech team is reduced to a lot less time, and you can just ask the last stuff that you did not find out yet, or if the feature hasn't been built at all, right? If there's nothing on the backend, for example.
Right,
So,
right. And then typically you would go to Figma and build high fidelity mockups. Is that right?
The standard workflow would be first low fidelity wireframe, and then go slowly to a higher fidelity one. If you have a very well-built design system and it's fast to use, you can go directly to high fidelity. And if you're actually not exploring how the product, actually the UI feels anymore, you can directly switch to high fidelity wireframes. So that's what we do, and we just go through a couple iterations. Maybe when I do a first version, and then I share with the team, and then they tell me, okay, that's missing, or this is maybe not the right way to do it, and then we kind of iterate into one or two different options, right? So I think this is where Claude Design is getting quite interesting. Is you could actually explore more options than we used to do in a smaller team, because you don't have 100, not 100, but maybe 10 or 20 designers that can explore different versions and then iterate on them, test them maybe with users here. If you have a smaller team, you don't have the capacity to do that. But with a tool like that, now you can actually explore more options and share them and get feedback on more stuff instead of building it yourself right away, right? Even if it doesn't look perfect, you can at least have a clickable prototype, something that you can go through with people and have a first feedback, which is super useful for the design team. You get feedback way faster than you used to.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So maybe other things on that we tested was just having different versions of landing hero. It's very far from what we have on the live now, but it's just to try to see what he came up with. It's not amazing, I would say, but the cool thing is you could test different fonts directly on the thing. You don't have to go through hundreds of fonts you have on your Figma, for example, or test different kind of patterns. So it's actually quite handy, I think. Here's breaking, so it's a bug on their side. But it's interesting to explore ideas. So even if you're not in a company like ours where you have a design system that's already in place, if you're just a solo designer or an agency and you want just to explore things, I think it gives you a range of exploration that was super hard to achieve at that speed, at least before. So you had to have a real big machine in place to achieve the same thing.
Yeah. So maybe just paint the picture of what the design flow might feel like for you now.
I think slowly, I think AI is really speeding up ideation, wireframing, and actually you have some part of now, maybe diverging a bit just from Claude Design. You have some AI assisted tasks on Figma as well, for example, for content and stuff like that. So that's also speeding up things. And I think the process is still the same. It's just speeding up a lot of the initial tasks.
Yeah.
It's not completely killing tasks for designer, which is one of the things you see often on X, and saying, "Oh, that's okay, it's done for designer, now it's no more design, no more work for them." I don't feel it's the case yet. We might get there at one point, but it's not there yet. And completely killing. So one of the for example, you mentioned the Figma stock crashing after the release of Claude Design. Well, I'm not going to go into financial advice, but I don't think it's killing Figma yet, because of a lot of the things we mentioned along the way, right? So you have the design system and stuff. So we might get to a point where the design system is going to live only on the tech side, and designers would be able to build right away from it, or other people maybe just engineers or product people. So, but right now I don't think it completely kills. It's still far from killing the Figma step, because just getting into the pixel perfect design, like everything aligned and stuff, aligning everything and having everything that sits right into your columns and everything. So without going into too much of detail on the design work on that, that's not doable yet on, or at least I haven't found a way to do it on Claude Design. And so there's still quite a gap to reach that state on purely AI, I think. And then for building, launching, and delivery, those things are still handled, at least on our side, through Figma, handing over to devs, having a first version on local, and then on staging, and then testing and stuff. So those things are still pretty much the same. I know that on the engineering side, they're spinning up a lot of things with AI as well. But so for me, for answering your question in a short way, it's accelerating a lot of tasks, but not killing them.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to show us in Claude Design before we start to think about its competitors and the alternatives to it?
Well, you can do slide decks and stuff like that. So it's not purely product design, I would say. So even if someone in the team wants to have a go at creating a new slide deck based on the design system, they can do it without the help of designers, which is actually a good thing as well, I think. Or have
Hugo, could you just fix up my slides for the next podcast?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
yeah.
I think it's not, but I think it's not going to be I don't think the result is going to be perfect. Not that designers do perfect jobs all the time, but it's not going to be working perfect all the time. So
don't listen to Hugo. Designers are magical unicorns, and we couldn't live without them.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think it's still the same approach, right? I think it's just at least giving the ability for non-design people to share ideas and build the first version of it and having the momentum going, I think that's super useful, because before it was a big blocker for a lot of people. They would just they would spend a lot of time on I don't know, Google Slides and stuff like that, trying to make it look decent, and then at the end you'd redo everything with the design team. So it's also a long process. And I think it would be easier to share ideas, and even if an engineer or a product guy has an idea of a new feature or how a feature should look like, he could also have a quick prototype that he could show with the team. And that's, I think, yeah, for sharing ideas, it's super powerful.
Right.
Yep. And so we can go to the next question, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So that's enough of Claude Design. All right. So tell us about the tools that are around Claude Design, like Lovable and others like Cursor, and how they compare or don't compare.
Yeah, I think so. Something that's really close to Claude Design, I don't think. Yeah, maybe Cursor at some degree. You could use it in some way, but it's a bit more geeky, I would say. So it doesn't have a easier. The interface is a bit less easy to understand, and you have to have a version of the repo of the company repo, for example, on your local machine, and dig into the code
Maybe
a
just
little
give
bit
us
more.
a summary of Cursor for those that haven't come across it before.
Yeah, it's an IDE, so it's software development tool. Actually, at least primarily used for that. So it's something like visual code or something like that you can use to write code, right? It's assisted through AI, so you can prompt and ask AI to help you or build or write code for you and so that. But you can also use it as a design tool if you want to. So there's a browser that you can open files in browser and edit them. So mainly through prompting. So it's quite of a slow thing to do, right? So let's say you have a homepage and you want to edit the button. You're not going to click on a button and change the color. You'd have to prompt that. So it's a bit of a tedious task to actually really design for it, because it takes some time. You have to prompt it, then you have to of course make the change. So maybe something that would take a couple of clicks on Figma would take you 10 minutes on, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but it's going to take longer to build. But the difference is you would have working code with Cursor, which you would not have with Figma, for example, right? So on Cursor, you'd have something that's
or Claude Design,
or Claude Design, yeah. So actually Claude Design is not. I'm not sure it's directly code, but you can hand it over to. So that's actually one thing I didn't show. It's you can hand over to. So from Claude Design, you can hand over to Claude Code. So if you go to share here, you can hand off to Claude Code, and you get a link. And then you get a prompt, sorry, and you can directly ask Claude Code to build what you've done on Claude Design.
There's a lot of potential here, right?
Yeah. It's I think for example, for landing pages, home pages, or simple websites, it might be a direct competitor to something like Figma, for example. But because you don't have to, or I don't know, like things like Webflow or Kramer, I think those are probably more in danger with those new features than maybe Figma is right now.
And what about Lovable? I know we don't use Lovable internally because
so
we
Lovable,
use Cursor and Figma.
I think that the main difference, I guess, here is probably the target user, right? I guess Cursor is probably the main target user is going to be engineers and devs, and maybe some people that are vibe coding and want to have a more technical approach to it. Lovable is probably super targeted to vibe coding, so it's just prompting and building something, which is okay but you cannot. It's not going to do the ideation thing that we just showed on Claude Design. Or at least I didn't manage to have a couple different versions of the same thing. I don't know if if they added that maybe recently, but at start when I tested Lovable, you couldn't have different versions and like try to ideate on them. I have a quick go on that. So you tell him, okay, I want to build a website that does that and that. He's going to build a first version, and then you can maybe iterate on it, change the background color, add the button here, change the button. That you can do, and then he's going to build a working product. The code that's behind it, I don't know the quality of it. I'll let engineers critique that, but it's a visibly working product usually, right? So you can even build a working CMS just using Lovable. Then you probably are going to run into complications to make it work with other tools and stuff, but you can have something that's clickable, that has maybe a database behind, stuff like that. So it builds a code for you.
Looks good, works most of the time, probably isn't ready for production. Hand over to dev team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for like if you're like a startup or like some like a tech-driven company, I don't think Lovable is going to be your go-to, but I might be wrong here, but I don't think that's the go-to tool for that.
Okay. So the last one I'd like us to just talk about briefly is FigJam. So maybe just first of all, a very high level sentence about FigJam versus Figma, and then maybe Claude Design versus FigJam.
So yeah, FigJam is mainly used for wireframing and charting. So maybe showing workflows and building flows and things that you can share with the team or have as a file that shows how your product is working. You can do some of that on Claude Design. Which one was, I think we did first? Maybe this one. Nope. Creation flow, also not.
And this is one of the challenges of Claude tools, isn't it? That it's not so easy to manage your files.
Yeah, also because I haven't named them in a great way. So.
Right.
But it is true that, for example, you don't see a very simple, like that's a super UX critique that I'm going to say now, but you can't, it's not easy to differentiate. For example, if I create a wireframe or high fidelity, I would expect it to look differently here on the panel, but it doesn't. So the only thing that they made look different is the design system files, which is good. But on the other side, if I create a wireframe, I cannot, or at least I haven't. I don't think it's different. I think it's this one. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
So here is
okay. So just walk us through what you did here to get to this.
So here I don't remember, but I think I asked him to create different version of an observe panel. So it's a panel where you can see stats about your agents in our product, right? So in Rightbrain. I just had a quick prompt here, so it was just to test how the wireframing was going to look like. So he created a couple different layouts, which is it was faster than generating a full-fledged high fidelity mockup.
You mean minutes rather than
I don't
dozens of minutes?
remember exactly how long, but it was because we did that during our last call when we were on together. I think it was 2-3 minutes to not.
Yeah, that's what I recall.
So yeah, pretty fast.
I mean, that's certainly faster than drawing something in FigJam yourself, right?
Yeah, so if you want to have 4 different versions, for sure you're not gonna do that in 3 minutes, or at least there might be one designer out there that does it, but it's super fast. Where actually I think FigJam is hitting the wall a little bit is the same critique I had for the high fidelity one. So if I want to move an element here, I cannot, right? So I cannot just start moving around things. I would have to prompt it.
Which is the first thing you want to be able to do as a designer.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I want to move around the blocks and having it ideally in a responsive way, but that's another thing. But here I'd have to mention it here and say, no, it's not edit, it's comment. I have to comment that and say, okay, move it down to the second line or things like that, right? Or add a new one. So I think
that feels a bit clunky.
Yeah, the iteration phase is still it's taking time. So the first thing is always, oh, cool, it generated four different things. It's nice, it's super fast. But then actually working on the first generation is on that first result is actually where it starts to get a bit more complicated. So
And so
to compare it,
how do you think that you would use that today? Would you just look at these 4 options, discuss them with me and the team, and we pick one, and then you go and build that in FigJam?
so I actually I don't even think. Well, you could if you actually work on a strong prompt where you actually tell exactly what should be on that screen and everything actually ends up on it, then I think it's a working result, and you can actually share it with the team. Otherwise, if like I did now, it's probably, if we look into it, actually the data probably doesn't make much sense, right? So it's not even going to be super useful. So you'd have to work on a strong prompt first, then have a good first result, and then maybe if it's showable like that, you share it. Otherwise, what I would do is I would just use it as an ID for them doing it on FigJam. So I would say, okay, maybe option A and B look pretty good. I'm going to redo it on FigJam with data that looks better and that actually reflects our product.
And you know, to be honest, I think as a product person, I would probably just want to go to where you're doing it in FigJam, put comments on it directly there, and move things around myself, and maybe clone it and say, hey, what about if we did this? I don't know if I would take the time to spend building a really great prompt into Claude Design yet.
Yeah.
But maybe in the next few months, it might have got to the stage where it's easier to prompt, and it's faster, and it's perhaps more flexible.
Yeah, so that's one thing I mentioned to you last time as well. It's that for me, at least, what I really like to do is I use a cursor and I ask questions about the code, and then I ask to generate ASCII wireframes,
ASCII.
which are pixelized ones. So it's just like white lines and stuff, and I ask him, okay, give me
Think very early computer games here, folks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's super 90s kind of UI. So it's just characters, right? It's a UI based on characters, so it's just lines and dots and stuff. But it creates it in 1 minute or less, a couple seconds. So like that, I can iterate on the structure. So I can say, okay, I want to build an observe page. Give me ideas of how that thing could be structured based on the code. So he's also getting the context better, right? So because you can say, okay, that's the feature we have. How can it look like? So at least the data is going to show is going to be on point right away, because he knows that on that API you can show how many tokens the agent has used, what CTAs need to be there and stuff. Sometimes it even has too much content. It's probably the first time the tech team is going to tell you, okay, it doesn't need to be shown there, right? Because it's on the API, but that might not be needing on the UI. But
you might be getting the feeling that Hugo's quite a big fan of Cursor. So I think I'm getting the feeling that we might do a follow-up episode where we do the same thing as this, but we go into Cursor for designers. I think that could be quite interesting for folks.
Yeah, I think Cursor is, at least to me, it opened a lot of options. You can animate things, for example. So I used to animate SVGs by hand, so coding into the SVG code. So you had to look exactly where, for example, a dot was in the SVG code, and then animate it, for example, make it pearls or something like that. Now I can just ask Cursor to make an animation on an SVG, which is super detailed UI work, but it's still super handy, because you could animate a button, for example, exactly in the way you want to do it, and then hand it over to the tech team, and it can just replicate it. I don't think your code is going to be perfect, but at least you can show exactly what you want to achieve. Before, you would maybe have to do a prototype on Figma that would take you at least an hour or something like that to show exactly how you wanted that exact item to interact with the user or just be animated. So it opens a lot of different options for designers, and I think that's where it's interesting now. I think that the job. Maybe I'm going to be diverging it a bit here on the podcast, but I think that's where the design job is evolving a lot now. It's not like some tasks are probably going to disappear because we won't need to do them anymore, and new tasks are going to appear because you can actually do them yourself instead of having to rely on engineering, right? So that's where it gets super interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's shut the screen share down and take this thing home. Closing thoughts on Claude Design, what you love, what you don't love.
So yeah, I think for me, the thing I love the most is the ideation part. I think it's cool. I think it's nice to share ideas, and I think in the team, interestingly, I might not be the biggest user of it, but I think it's going to be super helpful for other people to actually share ideas to design or product teams. So even whoever is in the team and it's not actually directly in the tech area, and they want to share an idea, they'll be able to do it with a prototype without knowledge, without design or engineering knowledge.
Right.
So that's what I like. It's the communication and sharing ideas angle that we probably didn't have until now. What I don't like, there's nothing I really dislike, but it's quite limited, I think, in the usage until now. It's probably going to evolve fast, as we've seen that Anthropic is evolving super fast. So I think it's probably going to evolve fast as well. So we'll see where it ends up in a couple of weeks or months.
Yeah, and then we'll do another version of
Yeah.
this episode. Thank you, Hugo. Much
Welcome.
obliged. So where have we got to? The design to code gap is closing faster than anyone expected. And just reflecting on my comments about Figma back in the day, I remember the first designer showing me the first Figma design and then opening up the side panel and saying, this is real code. And I was like, boom, this is amazing that we're bringing people together from two very different worlds and making it easier for them to work together. I feel like this as a sign, and what you've just described with Cursor is a sign of that gap continuing to close, and people being able to work better together. Unfortunately, a lot of us are spending a lot of our time testing these tools, right? And the purpose of this episode is to help you on that journey as the listener. But that is the process of improving and exploring new ideas. Brilliant's product team, Brilliant is a startup in the AI space, reportedly compressed a complex page from 20 plus prompts and other competitor tools to 2 in Claude Design. What we've seen, and that sounds like a PR bite, doesn't it? Soundbite. But what we've just seen is that it's probably not 2, or if it is 2 prompts, they are very carefully written prompts, right? And garbage in, garbage out is the principle here, right? So the right question about any AI design tool isn't, can it replace Figma? Thank you for that, Hugo. It seems that it's more, where in the journey does human judgment still need to be? Who do we have in our team? How do they work together today? And how could they use this or this or this, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, to be honest, the Figma versus Claude Design discussion for me doesn't really matter, because I think at the end of the day, it's just going to be tools they're using. I've moved from Adobe tools to Sketch, and then Figma, and then maybe also like use Webflow and Framer for other stuff. So it's just like there's always going to be new things popping up. It's just the most important thing here is adapting, and you have to know what's the best tool to use for the team and for what you're building. For some teams, Figma might still be the best thing to use in 10 years. For others, maybe Claude Design is going to be good in already now. So it's just based on what you're building, what the need is, and adapting to that need.
Beautiful. Thank you, Hugo. Appreciate your time. I hope that's been interesting, folks. It occurs to me that we, as an AI business, are spending so much time looking at tools and using tools and evaluating tools, that sharing a bit of that with the community, maybe that's helpful. So let us know what you think, and we will do more episodes like this. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. please share this with anybody who you think it might assist, and happy building. Remember, just like Indiana Jones, we're all making it up as we go. Thank you, folks. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.